Hi everyone, welcome back to Tech and Tots, the podcast where we navigate parenting in a world full of tech. I'm Urvashi, mom to a very curious 3-year-old.
And I'm Sanika, mom of a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old who's now asking me questions I definitely don't always know the answers to.
Now, this is the second episode in our AI series. Last time we had a blast talking about various ways of using LLM tools like ChatGPT for storytelling, for answering medical questions, kids' questions. But today we are taking it a step further.
Absolutely. The question on the table today is, can you actually use this technology to help with your kids' studies?
And let's be clear, we're not talking about replacing teachers or schools. This is all about supplementing learning at home.
Absolutely. Let me give you an example. My second grader just came home super excited, learning about the earth, the sun, and why we have seasons. It's fantastic. But then I thought, oh boy, how do I explain axial tilt of the earth to a 7-year-old without putting him to sleep? Now, my first instinct was to reach for Gemini, but then I took a step back, and I think a lot of parents would also ask this. No, why even reach for AI? What's wrong with a good old fashioned book from the library?
And we love our library.
But the value I find is that it's super quick and easy access. Now, imagine this, dinner is on the stove. My 4-year-old is building a magnetized tower that's absolutely about to collapse any second. And that's when my older kid asks, how hot is the sun? I don't have the time or energy to find the right book. I love that we can just ask this question to ChatGPT.
Correct. It's a great tool for me too when I'm busy or just feeling drained.
Yeah.
Another big one for me is just limiting screen time. That's why I would not use, let's say, a YouTube. Or it sounds counterintuitive because you're using a device still, but I can just switch it to audio mode.
That's a really great point. Plus, I think the quality of answers is actually better than what you would get from a quick Google search. No, instead of looking through a list of these 10 blue links to find something that's actually good, you can immediately get a comprehensive and a kid-friendly explanation.
I agree. Like the other day, my 3-year-old, who now has incessant Ys,
Yeah.
asked me why is she growing. And I told her something about the impact of good nutrition. But then it was followed by 5 more Ys. And at some point, my energy and knowledge both hit a ceiling. So I turned to Gemini, and it almost gave me a ready-made script for how to explain this in a way she would actually get. It was like having a tutor for me, the parent.
That's amazing. I think another capability that I find super useful is being able to create like worksheets or quizzes for my kid. Just print it out and hand it to them, right? Such a time saver. This is a tool to empower me, the parent, when I'm short on time or, let's be honest, knowledge.
I agree. But I also think there are downsides. My biggest fear is accuracy. Now, we hear about all these AI hallucinations and AI not being great at math. Now, what if it is just making something up and confidently tells it to your kid?
Oh, yeah, I have a fun story for you about that. The other day, I asked Gemini for the closest Domino's near a park I was going to. I realized later that it just gave me a completely made up location. There's not even a pizza place at that address. Forget Domino's.
Wow, it's so mind-boggling. It made up a pizza store. Now, I think Gemini might not do this for simple factual questions that a second grader would ask, right?
Hopefully.
But the risk grows when the question is a bit unusual. Like, I remember you were telling me the other day about you asking Gemini to explain to a 7-year-old why don't penguins live at the North Pole?
Oh, yeah. And it gave such a half-baked answer, something about other big animals living at the North Pole, and then oversimplified about the southern half of the world being the penguin's backyard. No mention of adaptations, evolution. Yeah, so with hallucinations, I do think we as parents still have to be the final filter. And I think it's a great opportunity to start teaching our kids about skepticism about these tools in a healthy way. Not everything you read or hear is going to be true, even if it sounds smart.
My other worry is about the learning process itself. Is it making things too easy? I mean, part of the learning is the struggle, right? Like getting a bit frustrated, thinking about the problem. That is what actually builds those analytical skills.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, let's go back to that seasons example, to see what we exactly mean by this. I'm going to play a short recording of my kid asking ChatGPT about the seasons. So here goes.
Why are there different temperatures in different seasons? That's a great question. So the Earth is tilted on its axis, which means that as it goes around the sun, different parts of the Earth get different amounts of sunlight at different times of the year. When your part of the Earth tilts toward the sun, it's summer and it's warmer. When it tilts away,
which is the right answer, but it's just a dead end for curiosity for the kid. It's basically just the final answer in one big gulp. No thinking required. And I don't want that. I want to guide my kid by asking them questions and then helping them build their critical thinking skills.
The Socratic method. I think you could try to prompt engineer it, right? You could tell it, like, explain the seasons to my 7-year-old in a Socratic question and answer format, and don't just give away the final answer. What if you did that?
Oh, that's a great idea. So after our discussion, I actually went back to ChatGPT and I realized it actually has this thing called study mode, which is intended to do exactly this. So I'm going to play another clip, this time with ChatGPT in study mode and with a very specific pre-prompt from me, right? Telling ChatGPT to not give the answer right away, but to rather ask questions and build up to the answer with my kid.
Why are there different temperatures in different seasons?
that's a great question. So let's think about it together. What do you think changes about the Earth as we move through the year that might affect the temperature?
The days are longer in summer.
Exactly. So when the days are longer, the sun has more time to heat the Earth. Now, what do you think happens to the angle at which the sun's rays?
Wow, that's interesting. It actually worked. But I can see how it can be a hit or miss.
Right. I mean, if my kid gets frustrated and just says, just tell me the answer, I think at some point it will just cave and give the answer. It's not a perfect system.
Especially for preserving that productive struggle, right?
Yeah.
Like we want a kid to understand a concept. And if that's the case, you really have to be careful.
Right. Now, the next question that comes to my mind is, would you actually hand a device to your kid and let them talk to one of these AI tools by themselves?
Well, my instinct and what I think is always best is for the parent to be involved. It becomes a tool that you and your child can then use together. It strengthens your connection. You can vet the information and you can use the AI simple explanation to make yourself a better teacher. But I also acknowledge the reality that we cannot always do that.
Yeah, I mean, let's be real, right? No, there are times when, say, I'm cooking or working and my kid is on a roll with questions. If the kids are old enough to ask questions by themselves and we are right there in the room, I'm not going to lie, that's really tempting, right? But I think there are different degrees of risks involved here.
Like the risk of my kid learning an answer too quickly, we talked about that. We could try and prompt engineer it. And, on occasion, even if that does not work, I think it's fine. It's a relatively low risk.
Yeah, I think I can live with that. I think the other one is the risk of them learning something inaccurate, right? We talked about hallucinations, and I think that's a medium risk. And I definitely want to be around to catch it and correct it. I think it's important that our kids learn not to trust tech blindly.
And the big one is the risk of kids stumbling into a discussion about something inappropriate. Like, let's say we are discussing about just seeds and plants, and the discussion deviates into reproduction in general. Now, I don't want ChatGPT to be the first introduction of a topic like that with my kid.
Absolutely. I think that's why if our kid is interacting with a tool like this directly, it's a good idea for it to always be in audio mode out loud so that we can hear every single word of the conversation. No headphones, no text mode.
So in summary, think of it as a powerful assistant for you, the parent. It can arm you with simple explanations, fun facts, even little quizzes. And it can be a lifesaver when you're tired and you just don't have the brain power.
Absolutely. Use it thoughtfully, especially for those big conceptual ideas where the struggle to understand and build their analytical skills is the most important part of the lesson. And if your kids use it, make sure you can hear them.
Perfect. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Join us next time in our AI series on Tech and Tots.
Bye.